Good evening. Welcome to the Boise Bus. It's just gone 1 minute past 7 on a Tuesday. So you all know what that means. It's the Tuesday Ticket. And I'm your host, David Logue. And as always, on a Tuesday, I'm joined by Phil McKinley and Reegan Stevenson. Boys, how we doing?
Doing well, David, doing well. Celtic. It's a big match tomorrow, David, and 13 points clear and through to the fifth round of the Cup. So I think we'll have a very good start to the season. But as I said earlier, David, I think this is a chance for Brendan Rodgers to make his mark. And this is exactly why he's been brought back to Celtic. So I'm looking forward to the match tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll get all into that. And Phil,
Yeah,
my
mate.
man, how you doing? Good?
Man.
Are you doing all right?
I'm doing fantastic, mate. Absolutely smashing. Ready and raring to go for another dignified Tuesday ticket, mate.
That's it. I know. I'm digging the attire tonight, Phil. That's a classic, that one.
It's a bit cost though, this away shot. There's a lot of bad memories attached to it. Henrik Larsson's leg break being the standout one, sadly. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's a
well,
nice shot. It is a nice shot, but yeah, it's got some bad memories attached.
Well, it's just saying it looked good on the runway, mate.
Yeah.
Modelled by yourself. Give me 2 seconds. My telly just seems to have unmuted itself.
No worries, mate. No worries at all. I'll keep on. I'll carry on. This ain't my first rodeo, but yes, while David's away, you know what you can do while David's not in his seat just now. You can do all that good stuff. Obviously, you can hit the like button. Helps us out in the old algorithms. You can hit the subscribe button if you can't. I checked earlier on. David, do you know how many people we need to hit 5,000 subscribers?
18.
Oh, no less. A magic number 7, mate.
Oh,
We're on 4,993 subscribers. We are 7 away from 5,000. So yes, if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button. Of course, get involved in our comment section like many of you are doing already. A lot of the regulars are in. Get Patrick McLaughlin, James Kennedy, Teresa, 420 somewhere, Patrick Kerrigan, Alan Mokwa, Pam's in as well, Jim C, Smell the Glove, and you can head over to piesports.com still, and you can still use the code BUS1888 and get 12.5% off all your tasty pastry treats. There you go.
Thanks for doing that. We'll be getting flagged up for copyright with Friends coming on the telly there. I don't know why the telly does that. It's muted and paused, and it's just went fuck you. Watch Friends. So turned it off now. We won't have any more interruptions. Can't get the staff, can you, Reegan? Honestly. Right. Well, Phil, thanks for doing all the good stuff. So we can crack on, because this is obviously the show where we do all the news, the gossip, and the hearsay. And obviously, we're going to be looking at tomorrow's big fixture. I want to bring up a little bit of debate, a little debate in the pot there, because I know Reegan likes to do that. You what, mate?
I said it's not like you do that.
Just get my big wooden spoon out. But yes, we're going to talk about. Obviously, it's a very important game, arguably the most important game of the season. But there was a comment made on one of our post-match shows by the wonderful Terry that pricked my ears up, and I went, that is an interesting statement. I'm going to bring it up on Tuesday, but I'm going to shelf that at the minute. So let's talk news, gossip, and hearsay. In the last few hours, some stories have been coming out, obviously in the media, which we'll always take with a pinch of salt. But because it's the January transfer window, it wouldn't be the January transfer window without former players being linked to the club over and over again. And of course, you all know who I'm referencing here, Phil. It's that man from Portugal, Jota. So yes, an article came out in the last few hours saying Celtic have learned bargain Jota price tag as return whispers heighten and Kyogo stance laid bare. The Portuguese winger is expected to leave league side Rennes this month after being frozen out for the first out of the first team by boss Jorge Sampaoli.
That'll do. We'll take that.
rolls right off the tongue when I get out all the foreign names.
Well, there, David
It's
Dunn.
a bit of a feature on the Tuesday, me just butchering people's names. According to the Turkish outlet, I'm not even going to try and say their name.
Oh,
A
don't.
Turkish media outlet.
Mm.
The winger will be available this month after a reduced fee of €8 million, £6.7 million, which is only a narrow increase on the £6.5 million that Celtic paid Benfica to land the ex-Portugal youth international on a permanent transfer in the summer of 2022. They add that the Turkish Super League outfit Trabzonspor are very keen on the player also, but they are more likely to explore a possibility of a loan deal. And of course, in other League range news, they are also interested in our striker, Kyogo Furuhashi. Now, Phil, as I said, we can't help it. We have to take this all with a massive pinch of salt, and we're all rolling our eyes once again that the Jota links are coming up. There was talks that Jota had said that his time at Scotland was great, but that's now in the past, and he's looking to the future. But at the minute, it's not been quite rosy, and the grass isn't always greener for some players, as it's as we're seeing with Jota. I mean, his wallet's definitely gotten a lot thicker, but his playing time certainly hasn't. Phil, give us your overall views on this. Are we just going to have to brush this off and say transfer gossip shite, or is there actual any legitimacy of this link for Jota?
I'd still take it with the old pinch of salt. I mean, it is a bit of lazy media, maybe lazy journalism. An old player linked with us, it seems to be, as you said at the top there, it seems to be par for the course. Get the old links with old players out all the time, just to stir up a wee bit. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love it to happen. I think it'd be fantastic. I think Celtic Golf makes a good point. Has Jota really kicked the ball in the last 18 months? It has been a very sketchy run for him. If he was to come in, if a deal was to happen, how long does it take him up to first team sort of scratch? He would need to get match fitness. Being physically fit is one thing, but being football match fit is another thing. So there's
What's
that
the deal
as
with
well.
that though, Phil? Why hasn't he kicked the ball in 18 months? Because we know it's not lack of quality.
Yeah.
I mean, he got signed by a Portuguese manager to the Saudi outfit, and then didn't register him because they went overboard with their foreign players. I know he got to play in cup games, but and then what's happened in France that he's again not even been picked. He's been told to train away from the first team. Is there this newfound attitude problem with Jota? Because I mean, he certainly wouldn't have just become a terrible player overnight. Like it's and this where the glove he asks a great question. Has he kicked the ball in 18 months? Well, looks like he hasn't. But why is that, Phil?
Yeah, I'd like to think it's not some kind of attitude problem, because obviously when he was with us, he was fantastic. He never had any sort of issues. You never heard any murmurings about him being some sort of bad apple in the dressing room. Nothing like that at all. He bought into the club, embraced the fans, always had time for the fans, even turned up at the Brazen Heat with a Bumblebee Celtic shirt on. Remember that as well. So yeah, I mean, to me, I'd be really surprised if it's an attitude thing. Again, you hear lots of different stories, lots of different rumours, but because Saudi Arabia, the league, amazingly has rules on how many foreigners you can register, which is surprising to me, given the amount of money that those teams throw around. I thought it would just be endless. They could just register as many, but apparently they have to have X amount of Saudi nationals registered as well to try and develop their game. And I think near the end of that transfer window that they signed them, there was a lot of talk that Mo Salah was going to sign for them, but obviously it didn't happen in the end. And I think in preparation for that, they had to unregister one of their non-Saudi players, and Jota drew the short straw. But in the end, they never signed Salah. And then the January window rolls around, and they've got a chance to register him then, get him in the squad, and they just didn't. But of course, I think by that point, Nuno Espirito Santo was away from there, so maybe the next manager that came in wasn't in it, but I don't know. Maybe his time in Saudi Arabia and his lack of game time has given him a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Maybe there is an attitude issue now. I'd like to think there isn't. But my overall feeling is still take it with a pinch of salt. It is still reeking of maybe lazy journalism. But my God, I would love it to happen because he's fantastic. Nicholas Kuhn, Maeda and Jota as your winger options. It's not bad, is it, mate?
Oh, but But Phil, that would mean one of them wouldn't be able to start. That's just what gets that's what gets said, isn't it? Like, oh, but if Jota comes back, what does that mean for Maeda? Well, you play him through the middle because it looks like Kyogo's on his way.
Well,
again, Reegan, let's talk about that because it was you actually that brought this to my attention, not today, but a few days ago. Because Reegan is he's in the know. He's got his finger on the pulse as always. Don't Reegan? He asked the group chat if it was something we should consider. Kyogo being linked to France. Reegan. Obviously, Brendan's made it clear that he can't force players to stay in Glasgow, but he's an important part of of what we're doing here, especially with Champions League games coming back in thick and fast. Reegan, first of all, could you see Kyogo heading in that direction, and how big of a risk would it be to let our star striker go in the January transfer window, when you could argue that our strikers haven't really been hitting top form yet anyway?
I don't think Brendan Rodgers would allow it because Adamida's not playing so well. I don't think he would allow Kyogo to go, even though we've got the points gap there. I think there'll be a part in the ways of two Japanese players in the summer, Ryota and Kyogo. I think those two will depart in the summer, David. But I think in terms of revenge, I think it is a genuine option for Kyogo. And I think I'm right in saying as well that you got a brand new person to help him as well. Is that right, Phil? You got a brand new agent, remember?
Back in the summer he changed agent, and within a matter of days we had that strange Man City link. Remember that he was off to Man City apparently. Then it went cool, but there's no smoke without fire. He gets a new agent, and suddenly there's these mad transfer rumours about. But I don't know, man. I think his agent was putting his name out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in terms of Kyogo, I don't think he'll be here long term, but I think in terms of January, I don't see it happening. But if it did happen, then of course it's a loss at this stage of the season. But also, if you're Celtic point of view, Kyogo turned 30 years of age, David. So they'll be thinking to themselves, if they can be able to get the club a profit from what they see a profit, then I would like to ask you and Phil then what potential price would Celtic be looking for then. But I think if the club's seen an opportunity there, especially with the points gap, I don't think they would hesitate letting Kyogo move on.
So you mentioned you don't see Rodgers allowing Kyogo to leave because of the form of Adamida. I do think he would allow him to leave, with only the exception is that he's known fine well a striker's coming in, and maybe the shape of a player that maybe suits Brendan's style of play a bit more. Obviously the Vitsgarden links just don't seem to be going away. In terms of potential price tag, I don't know, 6 to 10 million for a 30-year-old striker. What has he got? 4 years left on his contract, 3.5 years.
Yep,
for in that region. Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. What did we pay? We paid 4 million for him.
Yeah,
4.5 million for him. So any kind of profit at 30 years old, I think Celtic would probably take the chance. And also, you got to. This isn't just a case of Celtic, whether Celtic allow it or not. Players have a lot more stroke in what they decide to do with their contracts, and I think the contracts let on. I don't think the contract's worth the paper they're written on these days. If a player wants to leave, the player will leave. And if Kyogo's shown any interest of going to America, which probably wouldn't be a bad option for Kyogo in terms of lifestyle as well. At his age and the big money moves out there. I wouldn't be surprised if he has maybe said, "Look, I want to go, but let's see if we can get the Champions League group stages or the league table stages out the way, Phil, before anything really happens." I mean, we've got only less than 2 weeks of the window left, and there's not been any movement yet. But I think we'll see a few movements happening in the last few days, Phil.
Yeah, it's got after a few years of not having to do qualifiers for the Champions League and that whole waiting until we see what we do in Europe. We've had that, we've been free of that, and now we find ourselves in the middle of the January window, waiting to see what we do in Europe. And it's like, we can't escape this. But I agree, and I think many fans are of that opinion now. The Celtic board are 100% waiting to see how we get on, if we can progress to the next round, because it is something that is tempting to players that can give us a little bit more stroke in the negotiation side of things. We can guarantee them at least 2 more games, hopefully, if the draw is kind to us, how it comes out. If we do get through in the top 24, we happen to get a favourable draw, and you never know, maybe there'll be another 2 games as well, but hey, baby steps, I guess. We haven't won a knockout tie after Christmas since 2004, so that's something. But yeah, it's quite weird though, being in the middle of the January window and having that thought of they're waiting to see what we do in Europe. So it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't compute. But that's definitely where we are. I think the comment I brought up in my guy was Plunge McNugget said it about all the new players will turn up on deadline day. It's going to be one of those ones, mate. One of those ones that goes right to the last minute on deadline day. we hate it to happen, but I can 100% see it going that way, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. We've seen it. We've seen this story unfold so many times. Reegan, elsewhere, we've seen Alexandro Bernabe leave the club on a permanent basis.
Yep.
He insists that the club will always be in his heart after he
That's
sealed
good.
the permanent switch to Brazilian top flight. I'm thanks for that, Alexandro. Same here,
man.
bud. the feelings.
Yeah.
The Argentine defender initially joined the club on loan last year. He went on loan to Club Internacional in Brazil. Became the greatest left back that ever lived out there, and so much so that he was moved on for a fee of $5.5 million for the 24-year-old, making us a tidy little profit of $2 million, which is, we're good at that apparently, making profit on players that are absolutely hopeless for us, but hey, we'll take it. So Reegan, now that he's left and we've brought in a nice tasty $5.5 million, what do you expect the club to do with that position and that money that came in? Do you see the Kieran Tierney deal accelerating? There's still talks that the club is trying to negotiate a loan deal for Kieran Tierney. I know you were. We had a discussion whether you felt it was worth bringing in Kieran Tierney. We'll not get back into that, but let's just say for argument's sake, you do think it's worth the risk. Do you see that $5.5 million being spent on Kieran Tierney coming back on loan initially, and obviously getting him in through the door now that we've got the left back Bernabe away from the club?
I do, David, because I feel like it's fair play to the board for getting that amount of money, because a few years ago I was kind of expecting Bernabe to go there for a bit of change, but yeah, fair play for the club for getting that amount of money. Obviously, he's went out there and done well, and I think in terms of the Tierney situation, I think it'll accelerate as soon as the Aston Villa game's done. I feel like that deal is already pretty much done. I don't feel the level of journalists who have spoke about it, or the fact that if you go into any Serie A kind of outlet, there's talk that Cesc Fabregas and Laporta from Barcelona are talking about Valle. But I did find it interesting. I don't know if you noticed, David, but I did find it interesting that the journalists who are at the press conferences now are not actually mentioning names at the moment. They're just that potentially says to me that they believe that potentially the deal could be done, but they don't want to really mention it because everybody really knows,
We've seen in recent games, Phil, that Kieran Tierney is making appearances for Arsenal at the minute. And we're not just talking 5 minutes end of games. He's coming on and playing extra time, playing the full 30 minutes of extra time and against Man United, I'm sure. And he's came on as a sub in a couple of recent games, and he's come through them unscathed. When you see that, does that make you wonder whether there's been any real contact done with the club? Because I understand that he is still an Arsenal player, and Arsenal have got the right to play that player. But when you've got a player so well known at your club to be injury prone, are you willing to risk that player if there's a potential of getting a loan deal done before the January transfer window shuts? I know it's at the end of the day he's going to leave for free, so Arsenal probably won't be too bothered, if the player gets injured, if he's leaving for free and there's no deal. But if there is a option to, for Celtic to pay a partial of the wages, and go out on loan from January, are you risking the player? Are you risking your asset being injured before that could happen?
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I'm genuinely surprised to have even seen him feature at any point in their first team this season, because I thought he could only play cup games, but obviously he's had a couple of minor Premier League appearances and they have to register a specific squad for that. So I was quite surprised, and there is obviously a risk. We can't lie that Kieran Tierney has some, to put it lightly, injury problems. So it is quite a risky one, to be fair, that they're doing that. I think it will happen. I am pretty certain it's going down now, and I think it will be a case of we're going to get the pre-contract agreement signed, so he's definitely coming, and it gives us a wee bit more leverage to then go to Arsenal and say, go on, you may as well. I mean, he's not going to play much for this season, which seems to be the case. It's only just a couple of fleeting sub appearances recently, but ultimately Mikel Arteta's made it pretty clear that he just doesn't really rate him that highly. Arteta seems to have a bit of a contempt towards all the players that have won him his only trophy as Arsenal manager, which is interesting. He was just forcing them all out the door, just getting rid of them all one after the other. A massive turnaround in personnel, but Tierney's one of the last few survivors from that 2020 team that won the FA Cup, so it's a bit weird that he's sort of decided they all weren't good enough, but I think it's going to happen. I'd be quite surprised if it doesn't now. It does also go back, though, to those comments a few weeks ago. I said at the time, when Brendan obviously had a wee bee in his bonnet that night after St Mirren, and he said about Greg Taylor, he's so important to the team, we want him to stay, and we want to build a team with him in it, and then in the same month it looks like we might have somebody who's going to replace that same player that you were just telling us. It's so important. So that's a bit awkward for him when he has to sit at the press conference and be like, yeah, Kieran, so happy to get our man, so happy to get him, and it's like, a couple of weeks ago, listen to Kieran, but I get it. He's trying to protect Greg Taylor, he's trying to protect his player, but it's quite funny in a way that it's going to probably come back to haunt him, but I can see Tierney with us by the end of the month. It's just get that pre-contract signed, and then you've got the leverage to go to Arsenal and say, well, you may as well. And yeah, I think the player could also maybe push it through at that point as well.
Do you think that Greg Taylor stays until the end of the season, or do you think he'll try and move on now?
If Valle leaves because we're getting the Kieran Tierney deal in, then no, I think I don't see Greg Taylor leaving. If that's the case, because I think that's what they were reporting anyway, was that obviously that Cesc Fabregas and co were, if they could get Valle in, that was purely determined on whether Kieran Tierney could come in. So we ain't gonna let Greg Taylor and Valle leave in this window and only have a Kieran Tierney that we've all said is
what I mean
a
is
risk.
Celtic to bring in 2 left backs because Greg Taylor's got 6 months left of his contract.
Who would that other left back be? We're not being linked to anyone else at all, so I can't see us in the space. We've got 13 days left of this transfer window. We've seen nothing. I can't see another left back coming in as well as Kieran Tierney. I mean, right away, how do you sell that to a left back to come in on loan? Listen, you want to come in on loan as well as Kieran Tierney. You won't play any, but I mean, it doesn't benefit anybody coming in if they're known fine well that Kieran Tierney is also coming in. So if Valle leaves, I can't see Greg Taylor leaving with until either the summer or he signs a new contract. If Kieran Tierney is to come in,
Taylor would do it.
Valle will be away.
Yeah, he would do as a backup to the end of the season, because I say backup, there probably will be some rotation there. I don't think Tierney can play 19 or 20 games in a row, but he'll definitely feature more, I would think. But I've always thought about the board, the way they operate. Are they going to allow Greg Taylor to walk away for nothing? But realistically, at this stage, how much are they going to get for Taylor? We are super rich in terms of Scottish football. We've got a lot of money there, so it's like for a few 100,000 that we might recoup. I know the Celtic board have got a bit of a reputation for penny pinching, but I don't know. I think they'll probably stick out with Taylor. If he's not going to sign a deal, he stays to the end of the season, potentially wins the treble, and off he goes with his winners' medals into the sunset.
I like what Plunge has said here. I like how we're on first name terms now with Plunge. But
Plunge.
Right, Plunge. Valley and Taylor, Arofsky, KT will come in, and I would bring in the boy Penrice at Hearts. Now,
yes,
I would be totally with that. I thought Penrice was good at Livingston. He looked really good against us when he was playing for Hearts. I didn't even know I was quite surprised to see him even playing for Hearts. So I would definitely be on board with that, Plunge. But then I go back to, how do you sell to Penrice, other than the fact that you're signing for Glasgow Celtic, obviously. But for the boys' playing time, I just don't know how you sell that to him when he's playing every week for Hearts at the minute.
Yep,
Do you want to come sit on the bench while Kieran Tierney comes in? And again, yes, the pool of
what
Celtic.
age is Penrice, David?
He's I don't know, 21 maybe. I mean, I'd have to double check that. Someone let us know in the chat. Obviously, one for the future, definitely. And like you say, if Kieran, we're just sitting there. I'm arguing myself now, Phil, that if Kieran Tierney did get injured, we're saying, well, Greg Taylor will still play plenty of games. Well, I suppose the argument would be the same case with Penrice. So, he's 26. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Right, but
that's
then again,
insane. I do not expect that, but I thought he was a youngster as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I'm totally on board with what Plunge is saying. I would love to see that from the 45 minutes or so that I watched it. I'm like,
he was good. That game at Tynecastle,
he was the best player on the park. Yeah,
first half we were a wee bit ropey and he was giving us problems. You're right, he was. But then we took
the
second half.
No, it'd be. And Smelly Love said he'd been saying Penrice for ages, so we'll give him a shout out for that.
I mean, it's a bit of a joke here, right? But Owen Beck's had a very good season at Blackburn.
Owen Beck. There's that name again.
A very good season at Blackburn.
Yeah, Yang run circles around him. Reegan, come on.
Oh, David, you can't just do that for the rest of his life.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
You know, Yang ran circles around him.
Yang ran. Yeah, the only player that Yang has looked like a world beater up against is Owen Beck.
I mean, Dundee was crap that night. It was like 6 or 7.
Yang has scored twice against Dundee now in his career. Oh, jeez, Christ. Who saw that coming? Owen Beck, yeah. Owen Beck, there's a name. It's like one of those names that comes around every transfer window. Yeah. Also, Reegan, how does this one tickle you? We've got Sheena O'Shea in the chat. She's saying we should sign Jota and we should sign Ryan Porteous for 5 million. How does that one tickle you, Reegan? Ryan Porteous?
I actually quite like it. I mean, they'll look happy. They'll look settled.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I think he's a very good centre back, to be honest. And he's not getting much playing time at Watford and all. So no, I'd be quite happy with it.
He's not getting much game time. Is he not?
No, I don't think he is.
The last time I saw Porteous on a football field was at the Euros when he
so
obliterated Ilkay Gundogan and gave away a penalty. And Scotland get pumped that night.
Are we just? I don't know. I'm torn because sometimes I think he does look like a really good centre back, and obviously I think his Watford career started off really, really well, but it's obviously kind of fizzled out a wee bit if he's not getting game times. But I just can't. I don't know. Are we got a little bit of a soft spot for him because he wound the Rangers up? I don't know.
Okay, David, I'll ask you this question then. What about Scales or Porteous? Who are you taking?
Scales.
Come on, David.
I'll take Scales.
No chance.
We have to have a wee weekly debate. It's like, Liam on a Friday night, we've got to talk about Greg Taylor. We've got to have a wee Tuesday ticket debate between you two over something. So this is it.
Just like a couple of angry housewives just having a go.
Did you watch the match on the 2nd of January? Scales was all over the place.
I didn't actually. I was actually preoccupied that day.
You didn't miss much. We weren't that good.
No, I was busy. Aye.
That's my short
Aye,
review of
we're
that
all,
game.
we're all out. We're all out a shite game every now and again.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
that
we gotta
every
do that.
Tuesday. I do it every Tuesday between 7 and 8. So if I can allow it. If I can allow it for old Scalesy boy. That's I don't know. I don't know. Porteous or Scales. That'd be an interesting. What do you call it? We vote. We vote on the
I
bus.
put in the chat, Phil.
The only thing about Porteous I say is I always found that, particularly when he was at Hibs, he was very good at giving away a penalty and a red card against Rangers, funny enough. So he's got a bit of hothead against them in particular. And we don't need people with hotheads against them of all fixtures. We don't need that.
There's James Kennedy, like I said. Porteous should be sent off playing against it.
It'd
be a liability, Reegan.
Yeah.
It'd be a liability. And there's better. I think there's better. What would we pay 5 million for? I think there's better centre backs out there than Ryan Porteous that we could get. I'm being honest.
He would take the Scottish quota. That's the one plus I can see in it right now.
I think Scott McKenna's better than Ryan Porteous.
Scott McKenna, there's a forgotten name. Played for Las Palmas.
He's doing well.
Aye.
Do you know who else played for Las Palmas?
The McBurney. Ollie McBurney's playing for them. And the Portuguese guy that played for Rangers last season.
He scored against Real Madrid.
So I think McBurney did early in the season, or Barcelona. He scored against one of them as well. McBurney played for Las Palmas. What's the one we're coming to? Crazy.
Against Aberdeen. They can score against Real Madrid.
Yeah, there's a smell like love. Buy Porteous and prepared to play with 10 men a lot. Yeah. I think that says it all about Porteous. You know, I suppose you could argue playing with Scales is like playing with 10 men, I guess, Reegan. So I suppose it swings and roundabouts. Depending on who you ask. Right. Anyway. Reegan, you wanted to discuss this today. So Celtic were obviously have been linked for a while now with young Lennon Miller of Motherwell. It's been reported that Motherwell turned down a bid for the highly rated young midfielder. According to Sky Sports, the Steelmen rejected $2.5 million bid from Italian side Udinese. The Italians coming in for the young Scottish talent once again.
Yep.
And then I ask once again, what is it that the Italians know that we don't? Because Celtic, if reports are to be believed, Celtic have calmed down on their interest in Miller because of the £4 million asking price. Now, we've all read this story before. We've all seen this movie. Celtic gulping at a measly £4 million because the boy plays for Motherwell and is Scottish. But the likes of Udinese, a decent enough Italian side, are willing to try and sign the boy. I'm assuming they've obviously offered less than $4 million for now, but don't be surprised if they come back in. Phil, I mean, if the boy's available and it's $4 million, I say we get it done, because I think we can all say now that it's looking like the midfield could see some changes in the summer. The likes of Atati. Why not get Miller in now and let him continue to play at Motherwell on loan and then take it from there in the summer? I don't want to see another John McGinn scenario here where we miss the bus and we see Liam Miller turn it up in the Premier League for an Aston Villa in 2 seasons' time, and we go, that's another one that got away. I don't want to see it, Phil. So if he's available for $4 million and Celtic have shown interest in it, get it done, Celtic. Get it done.
Yeah, I would say we've seen enough now of Lennon Miller to see that this boy's got the talent. He's definitely got something there. I would be very much in favour of, if we get him signed, to keep him at Motherwell on loan for the rest of the season. And I think take it up in the summer. Just keep him playing every single week, because right now, if he was to join Celtic, he'll get games. I mean, Luke McCown comes rotating in, but right now, a bit of rotation, I think Lennon Miller benefits from playing week in, week out. So if it's something that Celtic can do, then great. As it stands right now, we're not in any way linked with him, and ultimately it's going to come down to, does Brendan Rodgers want him? Does the manager want him? Maybe he is, maybe no. Who know, we don't know what's getting said behind closed doors. But from a fan point of view, I think we've all seen enough, and many people in the chat are saying it, that they would go in for Miller. So I do think there's enough evidence that he passed the eye test. Forget the analytics and the XG and all that. He definitely passes the eye test when you watch him.
Absolutely. Reegan, it was you that brought this to my attention today, so I'm going to give you the floor, mate, to say your thoughts on the Liam Miller situation.
I'm a big
Lennon Miller.
I'm a big fan of him, David. I think he's a great player. I think he'll be see the way that Ben Dokes kind of burst onto the scene, like doing really well doing in England and like starting to make a name for himself in Scotland. I think you can be seeing that with Lennon in maybe 2 or 3 years' time. So I think Celtic need to be proactive in this. They need to show, right, we are the place to go. So I just feel this makes perfect sense. The boys are Celtic supporter, so I just see it perfect sense. And like you said, I think Rio is going to go to the Premier League in the summer probably. So I just see this making perfect sense. And Brendan Rodgers mentioned it in August as well, the fact that he likes to have more Scottish boys that know what it means to play for Celtic as well. I just think it makes perfect sense for all parties as well. And like you said, if it goes to Motherwell for the rest of the season, it means that he can benefit, but also Celtic can benefit as well. So I just see he would make perfect sense for everybody because, like you said, that this is one that I don't want to be watching, like, I don't know, Aston Villa in 3 years' time and he's ripping up in the Champions League. I want to see him playing at Celtic Park every single week.
So Chilpill comes in here, Phil. Make a good point. Chilpill comes in here, Phil. How does Miller get into the team even next season? I mean, it's a good question because how old is he? What, 17? 18?
No, I think he's maybe 18 or 19 tops.
I think he's
Is this when somebody comes in the chat and tells us he's 26, like earlier, like Ben Rice?
He's 42, boys. He's been
Yeah, no, he's definitely still very, very young. A lot to learn, but no, he looks a talent.
Right, so Chilpill says, how does he get into this team next season? I'm not even necessarily sure we need to worry about whether he gets in the team next season. I just think it's good to get this boy in the books. I know people could argue going, oh, well, that's, you're playing with people's careers there, blah, blah, blah. But if Celtic get this boy tied up to a 5-year deal and we send him out on loan for a season, like to maybe like I said, back to Motherwell, or you even put him somewhere else, I don't know, and see how he develops. Or, I mean, if he's he's shown he's clearly a standout in this league already. I mean, we're seeing the likes of what's his name, buddy McCowan. He's found himself starting more games than I thought he would. So I don't see why there's any reason as to why Miller wouldn't get game time in the first team. Would he start every week? No. Would he? But certainly, I think he would. He'd be an option off the bench. Certainly.
I don't think he needs to go out on loan, David. I think he's ready made to challenge that squad. Because like you look at someone like Bernardo, who's he's going to be a year older than Lennon Miller next year. Like, you know what I mean? This guy's going to be 20 years of age. And see, like, to be honest, David, he's playing the exact same level he's playing just now. He's standing right from Motherwell. I know it's totally different from playing for Motherwell every single week to playing for Celtic, but I mean, you just need to look at the players that are playing against him, like Stephen O'Donnell and people that I've heard on podcasts, even people like John. You've got so many players that have said first-hand experience that this guy is a player, and like big teams need to snap him up because I think it's okay talking about what's the point of bringing him in and then he's sitting on the bench? But I think he's going to be a valuable option.
Mm-hmm. So there's no real difference. There's no real difference between Motherwell and the likes of Dundee, really. And we're saying McCowan was a standout for Dundee playing at this level. And yes, it's a big jump for Dundee to Celtic, but I think we can all agree that McCowan's made the jump and doing quite well. Could he do better? Obviously, yes, but he's still a young player and he'll develop under a very, very good coach. So long as, obviously, Rodgers is still here. If Lennon was to join in the summer, you could say, Phil. But no, I think it's a no-brainer. I don't know, maybe if now that Indonesia's put in an offer of apparently $2.5 million, that might then get Celtic, get their arse in gear and maybe start negotiating a price.
Aye, it's all going to come down to see if Brendan Rodgers wants him. Ultimately, it's all well and good. Another club in for him. Does it prompt Celtic to do it? Say it'd be up to the manager to decide. And the simple answer to the question of how does he get in the team even next season, the player himself does it. Like Luke McCown's done. Luke McCown came in, and I was the same as you, David. I remember you mentioned him on a Tuesday ticket in the summer. Well, the link to Luke McCown, and my genuine reaction was just kind of fair enough, whatever. I was there at first. He came in and he's made himself a valuable member of the squad because he backs himself. He's not here to say, I'm a lucky Celtic fan. I'm a raffle winner. I'm at Celtic now. That's me done it. Luke McCown's came in and made himself, a valuable member of the team. He's always contributed when he's played, and he's got a significant amount of game time. Lennon Miller goes the same. I know he's significantly younger, but at the same time, if the boy's got it and he believes in himself, he comes in and he makes himself a valuable member of the team. Plus, we're talking about next season. Right now, we're operating with a rotation of midfield with Engels, Hatate, Bernardo, McGregor, McCown. 5 players pretty much rotating through 3 positions. I think it's safe to say, and I know we don't know anything, we're not privy to any insider knowledge, but if we're going to pick one that probably's ran his race now at Celtic and most likely not to be here next season, probably Hatate. So I think Hatate might be, near the end at Celtic because I don't know what to make of Hatate right now. It's up and down and all over the place. And if Hatate's not here next season, if one of them just leaves, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? We're going to need another body in there. Again, Lennon Miller comes in. So if the boy believes in himself and backs himself and he's got that ability, then there's no reason why he cannot force his way in if he's got it.
And I think as well, if you look at people talking about a £4 million, I think we spent that same amount of money on Kouassi Abue, and he turned out pretty bad. So I think I'd rather spend it on a player that I know that's ready made to go in that team rather than spend it on a guy from Russia who's potentially very good.
But he was a lion, Reegan. He was a lion.
Oh yeah, the Kouassi Abue.
Yes. I am a lion. Aye, okay, mate. Well, yeah, you sure did roar. Anyway, right, okay, so I'm seeing in the chat here that Aston Villa has been beaten by Monaco 1-0. The question by Chill Pill was asked, is that a good thing or not for us? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Champions League because obviously it's a big game tomorrow, arguably the biggest game of our season, especially now, you could argue. With Villa getting beat, that means that they're still yet to guarantee themselves a spot in the final in the last 8, Phil. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, the top 8 go to there's 2 rounds of 16 basically back to back coming up, right? So you've fairly call it the second round and the third round. We'll call it that just to be rather than playoff round and all that. Well, this, these terminology. So essentially they will skip into the third round if they get in the top 8. So right now, last time I checked the table, they were 9th. So with them losing tonight, fingers crossed it doesn't come down to Villa Park next week, but that's one of my worries, is if we still need to get something and they need to get a win to get in the top 8, that worries me. But hopefully we're going to talk about it now anyway. Hopefully we don't find ourselves in that scenario.
No, because we were kind of hoping. I think we've all said for the start, Villa, they'll be through, they'll be fine. Therefore, hopefully they won't be. They'll be wanting to concentrate on their league position. However, like we said, that has not turned out to be the case. So we might find ourselves up against a very angry Aston Villa side. But hey, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So let's talk about our opposition, our game tomorrow. Very important, of course. If we win tomorrow, pretty much guarantees us. In fact, I'm pretty sure it 100% guarantees us
12
in the
points.
playoff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So obviously, huge game. Does it bring more pressure to us tomorrow, knowing that we're playing an opposition that haven't won a single game in this tournament so far, Reegan? Because it's one of those ones that I get a bit worried about, that I'm like, knowing my luck, this is the team, that hasn't won a game, and we'll be the team. Now I know I'm not meaning to be negative. That's just what just knowing my luck. This will be the case. Does that put a worry or an anxiety into the stadium, or does that just breed more of an excitement around the game, Vegan?
I think it breeds more an excitement, because I don't know about you, Phil, but I'm kind of treating this game like a Champions League qualifier, because I think there'll be times in this match where we'll get chances. It's not like a Champions League match where we're going to be sitting behind the ball and things like. I think it's going to be open. I think Young Boys, I think they're a decent outfit, but I think they're what you call a playoff round for the Champions League. I don't think they're going to be outstanding, but I think there's going to be chances there for us. So, I think there's nothing to fear, but also to play that what you're talking about there, is this one that we could potentially mess up? I think Alistair Johnson mentioned it yesterday when he spoke to the press. He said that we know going into Villa Park, we want to make it potentially make it an easier one in terms of going into the match next week. So I think the players are fully aware, and I think the players know that if they play to their capabilities, then that it's a match that they can go on and win. I'm not going to say that they're I'm going to use the first match against Bratislava as a example, but I feel like it's that type of match. See if we get a goal really early, I think we could steamroll them, David. Really do. I've got a bit of confidence in me.
No, I have to agree with you, Regan. I do feel like this opposition is more of the level of Bratislava. I think they're maybe a little bit better, despite their current run of results in the Champions League. Smelly Glove saying that he hopes that Young Boys have chucked Europe and want to concentrate on their league to get back in the Champions League next season. I mean, that's a big factor. I mean, they're not coming with confidence, Phil. We've made Celtic Park a fortress this season in Europe. Therefore, that's obviously going to play in our hands. I know, obviously, we didn't get the result we wanted against Bruges, but we didn't lose. So, am I right? We're undefeated this season at Celtic Park in Europe, so that's definitely going to play a massive part on the mind games. I think this fixture, though, Phil, knowing the pressure that's on in terms of what a win could do for us tomorrow, I think that separates the real Celtic players that grow into the shirt that they're wearing and those that shrink and are weighed down by the weight of it, Phil. And I think that's when we'll really see who are the real Celtic players tomorrow night, when they've got such a massive game in terms of and where Celtic should be, where Celtic ought to be in Europe every season, pushing for getting into the next round, Phil. We're not just here to take part. I'm not saying we have to win it. We'd love to win it, but we certainly want to make a fist of it, and we need the players to turn up, because they certainly didn't turn up in the last game, and I can't remember who we played for some reason. It's totally went out of my mind.
Dynamo Zagreb.
Dynamo Zagreb. Greg Taylor's favourite team, apparently. We didn't turn up there. And that can't happen tomorrow night. We need to make sure that we're not passive. We are aggressive. We're quick on the ball. We pass it forward, even though we're trying to find other points of attack. We want to see the ball going forward and creating lots of chances and being clinical and ruthless, which we could argue we weren't against Kilmarnock. Plenty of chances, but not ruthless enough. And I want to see that tomorrow, Phil.
Yeah, it's a good thing that this game has a bit of a cup final feel to it. So we've got to get it done, because this Celtic team, going back a good few seasons now, but particularly under Brendan Rodgers and in his first spell, he relishes these moments. He and his players relish these moments, because it's very rare that when the pressure's really on, that we blow it, we often find a way, even if it's a bit like the Rangers one a few weeks ago, the semi or the final of the League Cup, where we were a bit battered and bruised by the end of it, but we found a way. So don't be surprised if tomorrow night is one of those where it's a bit nervy at times and we do find a way to do it. But I'm pretty confident right now that we will. One thing that's going to be so crucial, you talked about Celtic Park being a fortress, something we've said for years on this channel since we've been doing this, about getting Celtic Park back to being an intimidating atmosphere. The crowd have got to stick with the players tomorrow. They have to. We cannot have the moaning and groaning. I know a lot of fans reacted really badly to what Brendan said a few weeks ago, and that's fair enough. I don't think he was 100% wrong. He maybe could have said it a wee bit better. I understand he was emotional. He was obviously had a bee in his bonnet probably after the Rangers defeat, and he wanted to get it off his chest. But I've been going for long enough to Celtic Park, going back many years now, when teams are sitting with 10 men behind the ball and we're not 1-0 up, 2-0 up within the first 15 minutes and stuff like that, things can get a bit tetchy. As it turns out, I don't think Young Boys of Bern will be a team that will sit back. I think they'll try and press us. I think it'll be a very open game because they have got nothing to lose. They don't. They're not going to go through. They probably just think, look, we'll just go for it. We've got nothing else has worked for us so far. We might as well just have a go. If they do field a weaker team by their standards, because maybe they are thinking, well, the league's more important, maybe they'll just treat it as a sort of exhibition, a bit of fun. We'll just go for it. We'll just attack. You know, it could benefit us getting behind with Maeda and Kuhn with that pace that they've got. But I don't think it'll be one of those games where they'll try and stifle us and 10 men behind the ball and just holding on to it and time wasting. I think it'll be a really open game. But at the same token, if we're not a couple of goals ahead earlier on, the fans have got to stick with the players. They cannot get on top of them, because even if it's an 89th minute, 1-0 victory, deflects in off of Adamida's backside into the net or something like that, we take it. All we got to do is win the game. That's all we need to do. We get the win and we can breathe easily. So it's a case that a wee bit of patience might be required tomorrow. But I'm confident we will get there in the end, even if it is a nervy one on the night.
Yes, now, obviously you're saying there, Phil, that, you know, young boys might decide that they want to press us and attack and just enjoy the game. Obviously that takes the pressure off those players. When we've seen this season that the only time that Celtic have really struggled to deal with teams this season has been when we've been pressed. So, Reegan, our defence have to be prepared and concentrated for that, and we don't want to see what happened against Dundee, because they got a lot of joy out of putting a bit of pressure on us, and we've got to make sure that we're ready for that. But I do feel like, you know, especially when we've got like Maeda back and Kuhn, who are both having the best seasons in a Celtic shirt anyway. So they'll be full of confidence. And like you said,
and also they would have wanted to play this. See if it was like if it was other way about, right? And say your Young Boys had 12 points, and we had 0, right? And we were going to Young Boys. They would be going, oh yeah, we're smelling blood here. It's a great opportunity for us. So I think we need to do the exact same. Like if it was the opposite way about, we'd be going, it's the actual perfect opposition to play. You know, I think if you get handpicked a second last fixture to get yourself through, I don't think you get a better fixture.
No, I mean, I can't argue with that, Reegan. I think you see, it is probably the perfect opposition. We just got to be ready. We just got to be prepared for everything. We can't go in thinking that we'll absolutely smash. Because I remember the feelings around the Bruges game and the lead up to that was very much the same. I was very, very confident. Don't get me wrong, I'm much more confident with Young Boys than with Club Bruges, but I just got to make sure that the players don't go in with overconfidence and they take it very seriously and get the job done. A professional job, get it done. Now, Rodgers has said there's only one player that's not going to be available tomorrow, and that's obviously James Forrest. So we're looking at our strongest 11 going out. Phil, there's been a lot of chat around the back line, especially our centre back pairings of Cameron Carter-Vickers and a other. Right now it's Trusty, who we know didn't have the greatest game against Dundee, and then there was calls for whether Scales should be coming back in. Now, I was against that myself, purely on I don't think it's the correct way to just keep changing either Scales or Trusty depending on if they have one bad game. I don't think it's good for the consistency. I don't think it's good for the players' confidence either. Now, Scales, deservedly so, was dropped after the Rangers game. Then there's obviously the Trustees then come in and obviously didn't have the greatest of games against Dundee. But I just don't think it's right that we just chuck Scales back in, because we can't forget right away how the form's maybe just not quite there for Scales at the minute, Phil.
Yeah.
But where are you going with this? With your starting lineup, we'll start with the centre backs. Is it Carter Vickers is obviously starting, as long as he's fit. Who are you pairing him up with?
Oh, it's Austin Trusty. It's got to be for me. I mean, if he's played at the weekend there, after the Dundee game when there were calls from fans to get Scales back in, if Austin Trusty played there, I'd be stunned, absolutely stunned if he doesn't make the starting lineup tomorrow night. I thought he handled Kilmarnock pretty well. Obviously, that Marley Watkins, physical players. I think he stood up to that for all the talk on Wednesday night about how he was bullied by Dundee and drawing comparisons to Christopher Jullien against Lyndon Dykes and people saying, big shite bag and whatnot, and he couldn't handle it. And I think he handled Kilmarnock pretty well. I think with their physicality,
he learned his lesson.
Yeah, it's just one of these things.
Fine.
It just happens, it's just whatever. It's done now. I think it's Austin Trusty comes in and stays in the back line. I don't think there's any issue there. So, yeah, for me, I would be sticking with him.
Reegan, our left back situation, it's going to be Taylor. Would you agree with that? Would you be happy with Taylor starting ahead of Valley?
I think I would, David, but I think if it was me, I would play Valle, but Brendan Rodgers would probably go with Greg Taylor. Just because
What about that? What do you think of that there, Reegan?
Liam Scales came on at the weekend for Greg Taylor at left back for the last 15 minutes and looked all right. It was quite an interesting move, that one.
Big, tall, physical presence at the back there. Likes to run on the ball, Reegan.
Remember, actually, Scales made his debut under Ange against a Swedish team, Bodo Glint. We're going to be 3-0, Phil, away from home.
His debut was up at Tannadice, but he came on as a left back and he scored that day. He scored. He was playing at left back and he scored against
Reegan.
He did play against Bodo Glint at left back, so he did play there.
Take that back, Reegan. Apologise, Phil.
Sorry. To Brendan Rodgers, to Kieran Tierney, to Greg Taylor, and to Liam Scales.
Yeah, I would go with that too. He scored the world day at left back against Rangers as well, didn't he?
He did, he did.
I
mean, maybe is Brendan thinking if Taylor is off skate this window and Tierney, so maybe Scales is going to be the alternative left back. Maybe that's why he was putting him there at the weekend to put him on. Is he preparing him for that? Who knows? Me and Liam have only been willing it into existence for over a year on the Friday Feeling, talking about the lineups and saying maybe Liam Scales could play at left back, trying to make it happen. Maybe it's actually going to happen now. Who knows?
Oh, just throw a curveball right out there. I mean, could you imagine the meltdown? What's going on?
Jesus. I think it'll be Taylor. I think Taylor's is nailed on to start at left back on tomorrow night.
I think we know it's going to be Taylor, but hey, you never know with Brendan. Obviously, unless there's an injury, Johnson at right back. The midfield. Now that's going to be an interesting one. So obviously we know Callum McGregor will start again, unless there's some sort of injury or illness. But who would be partnering up with him? I think it's going to be Engels, Phil.
Yep.
Now, is it going to be Hatate for the one amazing ball over the top, or are we going to go for a bit more of a Portuguese feel and go for Paulo Bernardo?
I think I see this for every European game. My predictions always say I would play Bernardo because he doesn't take as many risks on the ball. But I would not be shocked if Rio Hatate finds a way to start lineup, because let's not forget the first game in this campaign he was outstanding against Bratislava in the middle park, and going into that, even I thought, got to play it safe, got to have the guy that plays the safe passes. We can't give the ball away. But we were very much all about just being on the offensive that night and just going for it. And Hatate was excellent. He was also excellent against RB Leipzig, which people forget as well. Fantastic that night. So it wouldn't even shock me if Hatate plays. But again, me and my safe head on, I would play Bernardo just to not take too many risks in the middle, because we don't want to get caught in the counter-attack. But Brendan Rodgers being Brendan, I wouldn't be surprised if it is Hatate, Engels, and McGregor that are the midfield tomorrow night.
Regan, do you agree with that?
Yep, I agree with that
You agree with
100%.
that? Yeah.
I think
I never noticed. You notice I never mentioned McGowan. Now, would you be upset to see him start in a game of this magnitude, Regan?
no, because I think he's a good player. And I think it just shows you the squad strength I've got from this time last year. You know, because it was Thiago home, and Thiago home no longer here. And he's away home. But I think in terms of like Bernardo, I think Bernardo's really showed up in the big matches, but also I think people seem to use the same way that they did with Edward. They seem to be forgetful of what Rio has done as well. I mean, see some of the big matches that he showed up in, like Phil said there, he's turned up against RB Leipzig, against Bratislava. You know what I mean? Like he's done really well this season. So I just think sometimes see if he's not playing well, or Celtic are not playing well, I feel like he's this scapegoat.
I mean, I can understand the frustration though, Regan, because I mean, we can't. Yes, there's no denying he was incredible against the list of teams that you've mentioned, but I think there's a lot more games that he hasn't turned up in, and that's the issue that people are now having is the inconsistency. The inconsistency of Hatate is now the main issue with him. I think we're seeing more poor games than we are incredible games. And I think that's maybe what the problem is, because we can't, and Mark, the judge, as harsh as his words can be sometimes, he does have a point that you can't keep living off a good pass against Real Madrid, which I think maybe is a little bit harsh because he has done good since then. But I understand the sentiment that he's the point that he's making. But okay, we'll move on to the wingers. As we know fine well, it's going to be Kuhn and Yang.
Of course, that would be a curveball. Jeez, that would. I think Celtic Park would collectively walk out right before kickoff if that was the case. Like what? But yeah, Maeda back with a goal as well at the weekend. Gotta be, man.
So Dyson on the left, Kuhn on the right, and it's for me. It's Kyogo. It's Kyogo for me, Phil. But yeah, it's got to be Kyogo. I'm afraid. I think Adamida got a good run of games. We've all been saying he needs to run of games. He needs to start more. That'll get him scoring goals. And at the minute, it's just not happening for him. So yeah, I just seen James Kennedy. Yang, no way. Yeah, I was joking, James.
Yeah, of course, of course, mate.
But yeah, Adamida, he's not taking those chances, and it's not a case of he's not getting any chances created for him. He's literally getting chances on a plate, and he's putting them. He's not even hitting the target.
Yeah.
And I think
backing out of challenges.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, his confidence just isn't there, and I don't feel we need to be starting a strike with zero confidence going into a game with such magnitude, because I don't think it's good for the player. Phil, when you mentioned, if things aren't going our way, the fans do start to turn. It'll be Adamida that'll probably be taking a lot of the slack. I think it's got to be Kyogo for me. It's got to be Kyogo for me, Phil.
Yeah, Kyogo. There's no doubt about it. Tomorrow's all about getting the win and being fast going forward, trying, play into the gaps and whatnot. And you're going to need Kyogo to make those runs and to create the gaps as well, because that's something that he does too. He isn't just good at running at the channel and running in behind. He draws players out of position, so that allows Maeda and Kuhn to get in behind and whatnot. So for me, tomorrow night, it's going to be a very similar approach, I think, to the Bratislava game at the start. I think Brendan will treat it as we need to be on the front foot. We need to just make sure we go at this team. And I'd say it's got to be Kyogo that's going to start it.
So that's our starting 11 now. Before we go, because I know we've hit the 8:05, and I know you've got to crack on, Phil, with some stuff. But quickly, I referred to a comment that was made by our Terry on the post-match pitch in regards to this game and its importance. What he'd said was, and I'm not saying I'm disagreeing, but I just thought this would be a good debate on having the bus, and I think it will split the people in the chat, because I know right away I thought of, again, Mark, the judge. Terry had said it is probably the most important game of our season. Arguably, it's more important than winning the league. Now, I can understand where he's coming from because obviously, like in terms of like how big the Champions League is, but the judge came into my mind because he's always said, the league's our bread and butter because he's always never been that fussed about the Champions League. He's become almost disillusioned to it. And I just thought it was an interesting comment because it's like I understand where he's coming from, and maybe I've either misheard or I don't want to misquote, but he'd said it was arguably maybe more important that we doing well in the Champions League and getting to the group stages and getting into the knockout stages than winning our own league. And I don't know. I still feel like a bread and butter. But what are people's thoughts on that? And I'm not, maybe in no way am I throwing Terry under the bus. I think it was maybe just a comment where he thought that, arguably it is to some people. But I just wanted to know, because right away I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Because it's still our league at the end of the day. You want to win that. And I'm just interested to know what your thoughts are and quickly what the chat is, because I think we could have a whole podcast on that one.
I think in terms of my thoughts in general, I think, of course it's good to win in Scotland, but it's also good to make a stamp in Europe as well. And I think Terry's got a point there in terms of, I think it is very important because, me, you and Phil spoke about at the start of the season, Celtic Park was becoming the kind of the place that everybody went and said it was a great atmosphere, things were brilliant, but you want to go there and you want to show, right, well, this is us making a proper thrust of it. And if we can go into this and be qualified for the playoffs by game spare, that I think that would show massive progression. And see, to be honest, from a Celtic point of view as well, I think Brendan Rodgers actually goes to the board and says to the board, look, this is what happens when you spend money. You can do well in Europe. And I think it's also justification for the board for spending that money because then they know they can do it year upon year because they know that Celtic will win the league in Scotland. That can also go
hand in hand, yeah.
That can go hand in hand, David, in terms of doing well in Europe because I think Phil made a good point earlier in terms of waiting to get your transfers done and see what the qualifiers are like. I mean, I remember when we went into a qualifier against Rosenborg and we're saying if we get through that one, then we can try and get 2 or 3 players in and all this sort of stuff. But I think it's Celtic, especially because we've got qualifiers coming up. So if the Celtic board actually go, right, we're going to bring the players in and be ready-made, I think it just proves that I think it is very important.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I again, I should maybe have got the quote word for word, but it was just the comment of whether it's arguably more important to Celtic now is to get into these knockout stages than it is to win in our own league. And I think he probably means financially, Phil. But like it says a lot maybe about our league, about how kind of maybe we have outgrown the league, unfortunately. It is what it is. But I just feel like overall, I know the feeling when we do rarely lose the league, it sits with you for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you always remember, I can't believe we lost that league. Whereas with Champions League, if you didn't get into the knockout stages, Phil, you might be pissed off for a couple of days about it, but you get over it. And I think that's maybe how I would judge, how I would feel about if I had to pick the two. But I mean, it was just an interesting thing. Oh, that's an interesting thing that you said there. I would be interested to know what people's overall view on the whole thing was.
Yeah, my feeling always is whenever this debate comes up, I do see massive value in obviously doing well in Europe. I do enjoy a good European night, a great result. I've seen many at Celtic Park over the years. We're getting a bit better now, but ultimately the question is, what's the prize for winning the Scottish Premiership? It's not the physical trophy you get, it's that ticket to basically have a crack at getting into the Champions League. Sometimes you've got qualifiers, sometimes you've not. And to me, it's like, well, yeah, the league is the most important thing every single season because it gets us that opportunity to get into Europe. So they come hand in hand with each other, really.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to bring it up at the end. But yes, Ian McIntosh,
Yeah.
he wants it all. He's not asking for too
Mm.
much.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And in terms of asking for it all, yes, all of your Boise Bus favourite programmes will be continuing on for the rest of the season. So make sure you tune in. We will have a post-match push tomorrow night with Terry and Boise. And of course, Thursday TNF, and we'll have the Friday feeling with Phil and the Wise Man.
Oh, the Wise Man. Yep.
Yeah. And all your favourite shows. So, guys, it's now 12 minutes past 8. I've kept you long enough. I want to thank everybody for joining us again and enjoy the game tomorrow. Hopefully I win. And we will see
It will be.
It will be. Of course it will be.
We'll
see you tomorrow. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Right. See you guys. Cheers.